This is Chris, the Idaho Painter here on Paint Live TV. Today I'm going to be talking about airless spray tips. How long do these things actually last anyways? It's a very good question. They don't last forever and they don't actually last very long. You should be changing your tips out quite often. If you want to know how long these tips last, stay tuned for this video. All right, I'm going to be talking about airless spray tips and how long these things last. And I know airless spray tips on average, you're going to pay anywhere $25 up to $39 for a spray tip, and that is quite a bit of money. What's interesting about them is they're expensive and they don't actually last very long. And a lot of painters have a tendency to use them a lot longer than recommended or a lot longer than they should be using them. And just to get right to it, I use like a fine finish tip. This is a Tri-Tech fine finish tip. Fine finish tips last 20 gallons maximum before you're really not getting a true fine finish out of it. You're not getting the performance out of the tip. How long does a production tip? I don't have a production tip here, but say like a Titan production tip, Bedford tip, Graco, across the board, they all on average about 60 to 80 gallons is as long as those tips should be used. So I know there's guys out there using them for 100, 200, 300, 500 gallons. And what's the difference? And I've been spraying for, I don't know, 25 years, thousands of hours, tens of thousands of hours with a spray gun in my hand. And what you'll notice if you're not wearing headphones and listening to music and stuff, if you're really in tune with the sprayer, one thing you're going to notice is right off the bat is when you start to use the spray tip, the sound is going to change. Eventually when you're spraying, you're going to start to feel more fallout. The pattern's going to change. And I'll just talk a little bit about, just production tips in general. And there's a study, one of the major manufacturers of spray tips I got a hold of the study, and across the board, their spray tips with a lot the other major manufacturers of spray tips. I'm going to be talking about a 515 tip. This is in the study. I saw on the 515 tip after 20 gallons, the orifice size on a 515 tip was already a 517 tip. So initially when you start using these tips, they start wearing rapidly, but then the wear, the curve starts to drop off. So they wear really fast, quickly within the first 20 gallons, and then it starts to drop off after that. But a 515 tip became a 517 tip just after 20 gallons. After 60 gallons, the orifice size, was significantly bigger. And what actually happens is the pattern begins to change. So the pattern is kind of like a nice oval looking pattern. The droplet size is nice and even. And as the tip begins to wear, the orifice size begins to wear. What happens is that pattern is having a nice oval shaped pattern. It starts to become a circular pattern. And what happens is the atomization process isn't as effective. It isn't as good. Droplet size is more sporadic, larger and smaller droplets intermixed. And what happens is you start to get a lot more overspray, a lot more fallout. So when you're spraying, especially overhead, as the tip begins to wear, you start to feel more droplets falling out of the air on you. And that is a worn tip size. Now, some of the overspray, some of the fallout is going to be related to pressure. Too high a pressure is going to cause some of that kind of stuff, but tip wear is one of the major causes of overspray, getting on plants, getting where you don't want it to go. Are you enjoying the video so far? Are you finding it helpful? Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That way you'll get notified every time we come out with more of this free content. And now let's get back to the video. So the tips themselves in this study, around 60 to 80 gallons is when you should begin changing it. And what happens is the tip itself, it's about a $35 item. When you've gone beyond that 80 gallon mark and you're into 100 gallons, 150 gallons, you actually begin wasting more paint and overspray and fallout. You could end up on an entire house, waste a whole gallon of paint. So not only do you have overspray to clean up, overspray on plants and stuff like that, but you're actually losing the money that would cost you to just buy a new tip. So the tip actually pays for itself when you change them in time. A fine finish tip, like after that 20-gallon mark, you're not getting a good high quality fine finish. You're not getting the proper atomization, the fine finish spray pattern that you should be getting. So you really should be changing your tips, your fine finish tips every 20 gallons, and then your production tips every 60 to 80 gallons. If your boss is telling you that, because I hear this a lot from painters, that my boss would never allow me to change the tips that often. Well, unfortunately, then your boss is not allowing you to be an effective painter to achieve good quality results. And you have an argument like, well, the overspray that's going to be created, that's going to be blamed on me. The loss of paint, that's you're losing by using what we call blown out tips. It's just going to cost the owner of the company more money. Now, I typically around 30 gallons, 20, 30 gallons, we can actually begin to hear it. And you'll hear like a tip itself, like a tip that's got 100 gallons, 150 gallons, you'll hear a really loud hissing sound coming out of the tip. As that orifice begins to kind of become a circle, you hear it hiss, you see more overspray coming out on the guard, the plastic part of the guard. You get a lot of built up overspray on there. And once again, you get larger particle sizes that are going to hit your substrate and bounce off and become, just wet paint on the ground, wet paint on your roof. So what it comes down to is change your tips to save you money, to save liability and overspray. It's just going to just make you a better painter. 20 gallons for, in my opinion, 20 gallons, and it's not just necessarily just my opinion. I actually saw the study. I'm going to see if I can get a hold of it and post it in this video so you can see that the actual curve of these tips. And these were the major manufacturers: Titans tips, Graco tips. They were all tested. So it's out there. It's and I'm going to try to make that available for you here in this video if I can find it. Once again, little information on tips. How long do tips last? If you've got any experience with tips and how long they last for you, let us know down in the comments section below. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That way you can get more videos right here on Paint Live TV talking about airless spraying and tips out.